The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
I don't like saying I told you so, unless it's in the case of Disney. Then saying I told you so is just too sweet. And it looks like I'm going to get to say it again. The live-action remake of the Disney films are lazy, trite, banal, and it looks like the critics are finally catching on. Over on the site that sold its soul to save Captain Marvel, Rotten Tomatoes, Disney's newest film, The Lion King, is sitting at a 57%, thus making it rotten. Now, Jeff, you might say, is this just the work of trolls? Nope, these are the verified critics. But Jeff, it's just a few of them. Well, 88 is quite a few. If each critic was a mile per hour, the DeLorean would go back in time. By the way, Back to the Future 4 is a terrible idea, Christopher Lloyd. Just don't. But Jeff, yeah, I know. Deal with it. The story surrounding Disney's last big release, Toy Story 4, was how it was sitting at a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes before the film's release. The story surrounding this film, The Lion King, in the week before its release, is disappointment. Reviews read as followed, like this one from IndieWire that says, a well-rendered but creatively bankrupt self-portrait of a movie studio eating its own tail. He gives the film a D. Or this one from New York Magazine. It's a stirring reminder of what can be achieved with all the talent and money in the world, as well as a cautionary tale of what can happen when there's no vision to bind it all together. The Associated Press says The Lion King is missing something. A purpose. Maybe a heart. And finally, CNN says, the result is a polished and satisfying film, yet one that conspicuously feels even more like a consumer product than most Disney revivals of its animated classics. Of all the critics in Hollywood, our favorite, Scott Mendelson, is chiming in, and just like X-Men, Scott has a point. I know, I hated saying that. The Lion King review. Be prepared for a crushing disappointment. Yes, the visuals on display in Jon Favreau's The Lion King are indeed impressive. The animation and technology that crafted a pretty great adaptation of The Jungle Book 3 years ago are in full swing in this adaptation of the 1994 blockbuster animated gem. However, like too many of these recent remakes of the Disney animated library, the emphasis is on realism at the expense of entertainment value. At almost every turn, this redo undercuts its own melodrama by downplaying its own emotions. The key direction seems to be like the 1994 version, but less. This is noticeable from the start as the Circle of Life sequence unfolds as a skewed carbon copy of the original groundbreaking sequence, but less, well, animated. Disney is going for essentially The Lion King, redone as a Disney nature documentary, and that is not objectively a poor decision. However, by default, or by decree, we lose much in the trade-off. It does make a difference when Rafiki half-heartedly holds up the newborn Simba for public view, rather than thrusting him into the air in an iconic moment that has become the bane of house cats everywhere for 25 years. That sets the tone for the movie as a whole, where almost every line of comparatively colorful dialogue, every moment of spur-of-the-moment wit, and every moment of comparatively devilish behavior is ironed out for the most straight-faced or honorable delivery. Aladdin had this problem as well, so deathly afraid of being offensive or problematic that it removed any sense of danger or snark. In that film, Jasmine gained a generic power ballad and lost almost every moment of agency. This time out, it's James Earl Jones' Mufasa who suffers the most. Like with Aladdin, characters explain in detail the choices they are making and the reason for those choices. It comes off like a mix of comic book adaptation of a movie where the thought bubbles and extraneous dialogue make up for the lack of movement, and the actors who sound like they've forgotten their lines and are winging it from memory of the 1994 flick. Whether it's just about padding a 90-minute feature to 2 hours, or playing to the online demographics that view every attempt at subtlety as a plot hole, these films come off like the original stories retrofitted as preschool cartoons. Oof. To the extent that I enjoyed Aladdin, despite the above-noted screenplay quibbles, it's mostly due to the comedic courtship elements and sheer charisma of its heroic trio. But this time out, we're watching a similarly overwritten adaptation of what once was a tight as a drum 85-minute narrative acted out by photoreal animals. There were times, too many times, where it feels like we're watching something akin to a straight-faced Strange Wilderness, a movie I honestly never expected to think about ever again. Relatively speaking, the animals can't act, and they're sure as heck can't John Oliver is inexplicably bad as Zazu. He sounds like a bad dub, and he gets the lion's share of the added expositional dialogue. Chiwetel Ejiofor makes for an excellent and nuanced Scar. He does feel more alive than his co-stars, yet he is hamstrung by the 118-minute movie that still doesn't have time to let him sing a full version of Be Prepared. His constant lusting after Sarabi plays as an answer to folks who complained back in the day that Jeremy Irons' bitchy baddie was a negative gay stereotype. That may be true, but damn, he was fabulous. Simba and Nala are fine, but they're mostly overshadowed by their co-stars. Beyoncé gets a new Oscar-friendly single, and she and Donald Glover sing Can You Feel the Love Tonight, together with relative success. The film only really comes alive at the end. The film's action climax, while pretty similar to the original, is the only sequence where it feels about as lively, as in spots, more melodramatic than what came before. It's every bit as grand as the final battle of the Jungle Book. Yes, the technical talent and artistic intent on display is quite impressive, but it's in service of a glorified fan film. A $200 million version of that kids remake the Raiders of the Lost Ark in their backyard thing, except with the backing of the biggest entertainment company on the planet. It exists only to remind you that the original movie still, nitpicks and cultural issues aside, is pretty great, and that they made most of the right choices the first time around. At almost every moment, this version is almost intentionally less urgent, less enchanting, less passionate, and less operatic. That is damning. If somebody like Scott Mendelson, who once said that films led by white men are box office poison, is calling Disney on their shit, you know something is up. I don't dislike that Disney exists. I don't like that they hold most of the power. It's never been because I'm jealous or it's personal, but it's the fact that Disney takes the easy way out and creatively violates entertainment. We've seen how they fired Fox employees after they said they wouldn't. We've seen people attack each other at their theme parks. There's a rabies outbreak at Epcot, yet we're the terrible people because we dislike their films. No. Besides using this as a moment to laugh at the hubris of Disney, I hope the critical response to The Lion King's lack of reason to exist will be used as a wake-up call for all those out there who constantly champion Disney's takeover of everything. I'm sure you've heard they've retroactively gone back and altered movies as not to offend anyone. They did it to Dumbo, and now Toy Story 2. What's next? Where do we draw the line? What about Hulu? What if there are jokes in Die Hard that someone finds offensive and they cut those out as well? What line has to be crossed before people won't blindly accept Disney's corrupt decisions? I feel like we're reaching the breaking point with all things Disney, and since they own almost everything, there's a sense of dread surrounding the entertainment landscape as a whole. The box office is down over 6%, and even Disney isn't immune to the downturn. The big story was that Toy Story 4 underperformed its opening weekend. I wonder if that will be the case for The Lion King with all the negative press, or will we see another Aladdin? 90s nostalgia is strong, and they're laying it on pretty thick these days. Pretty thick. All in all, I can say that I'm thankful the critics are waking up, or they're just tired of shilling for Disney. There had to be a tipping point, and I like to think that'll be fully reached by 2020. Maybe it's ego, maybe it's something else, but I'm happy that the original Lion King will live on as the superior film. It's slimy, yet satisfying. So that's it for today, folks. We hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure you're subscribed to this channel with all your notifications turned on, because there's been some changes here on YouTube, and people haven't been able to find us. But we're here all the time, so just check back every day and see what the guys at World Class Bullshitters have to say. Also, if you enjoyed it, make sure you give us a thumbs up, and if you want more of us, well, join us over on Patreon. $1 a month goes a long way, but $5, which is only 17 cents a day, gives you exclusive access to all kinds of digital content. We're adding more, and we have some big changes in the next coming weeks. So keep your eyes peeled for those, and get involved, and get invested. Most importantly, I'd like to know what you think of this whole situation. Do you see Disney's bullshit? Are you finally happy that others in the media, the shill media, are calling them out on it? They're not playing softball with The Lion King. Good, as they should not. Remakes are creatively bankrupt, lazy, and they don't really serve much of a purpose. But I'm going to get going, folks. I got a podcast to do. But before I go, I have a simple request. You know what it is if you watch our videos, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. What is it? Go out into the world and be excellent to each other.